Hi, my name is James. Welcome to Kingsfund Woodworking. Today I want to show you these really cool puzzle rockers. They go together like a 3D puzzle and they lock together very solid, and they're very easy to make. They can be made out of just a quarter sheet of plywood for this size to small. They also come in a large size. Follow along and see what you think about them. I made these a few different ways in the past. I used to just get a template of them. It's basically all curved pieces, and then you just cut out the template with some scissors, trace that onto a quarter of a sheet of plywood, and then cut your pieces out with a bandsaw or even possibly a jigsaw, sand it, maybe round over the corners a bit, and then the whole thing slides together like a puzzle with a little locking key at the back. And that is probably one of the easiest ways to make these. First thing I did here, you can see, is just to cut out all the different pieces of the chair. Like the sides you need two, and the other pieces you basically need one of each of them. But it's a pretty straightforward process. And it doesn't take long to make one, maybe 30 minutes, something like that. And I'm going to show you one of the pieces here, how I cut it out. And I'm going to go ahead and use a bandsaw. It's a little bit quicker than a jigsaw, and the edges are cut a little bit easier. So the first thing I do is just kind of tape it down in 3 or 4 spots so it doesn't move on me. And then I can trace around all the other spots. And whenever I reach the tape where I'm tracing, I'll just pick the tape up and trace past that point and then put the tape right back down. Kind of moving the pencil back and forth in order to get a nice dark mark, just so I can have you guys see it on camera. A little hard to see it on camera otherwise. A thin line, of course, would be just fine as long as you can see it. And you see what I've done there, just kind of move the tape out of the way. If this is a project you think you might be interested in, we do have 2 different sizes of these puzzle rockers. We've got a small, which is for kids about ages 1 to 5. And then we've got a large size for bigger kids, maybe from age 4 to 9 or 10, somewhere in that range. And this is how we cut these things out. And I do have the plans available on the website for the templates. They're really not plans, it's really just templates, because there's nothing to it. Nothing to think about or figure out or calculate. It's all pretty self-explanatory. You just cut the parts out and they slide together like a puzzle. And I'll show you how we put them together. And since it's going to be used for kids, I'll just make sure that we sand all the edges nicely, and I'll put a little small, maybe a 1/4 inch radius round over bit in it. And this is 1/2 inch plywood, which is what these are designed for. Typically when you buy it, it's 12mm plywood, so these are actually designed for 12mm. If you happen to get plywood that was just a touch thicker, it's no problem. You can just sand these slots just a little bit wider, or cut them just a tiny bit wider with the bandsaw. But everything we checked was exactly 12mm, and that's kind of what these are set for. And this part will have to be done with a jigsaw. I suppose if you had a scroll saw, you could do it, where you can take the little blade out and cut around that inside opening with a scroll saw, but it's pretty fast and easy with the jigsaw. Jigsaw is a little bit rougher of a cut than a bandsaw, and it's a little bit slower. That's why I would prefer, if you have a bandsaw, my choice would be to make them with the bandsaw, just because it's faster and a little bit cleaner and neater. But if all you have is a jigsaw, you can certainly do this whole thing with just a jigsaw and maybe a circular saw and a sander. And if you guys like the type of work we do, we'd really appreciate it if you took a moment to subscribe to the channel. There's a link down below. You can click that, and a notification bell if you want to get notified for future videos. You can click that as well, and then YouTube sends out a notification letting you know that we had a new video get released. So there's that, and we're just going to kind of sand the edges. Any random orbit sander will do. You certainly don't have to go out and buy a Festool. We got addicted to the Festools a few years back when we had tons and tons of sanding to do, and make a big difference. There's no vibration on your hands. They're just really nice, real powerful sanders. But for the first 25 years I did woodworking, 30 years I did woodworking, I just used whatever I could get, like a DeWalt or a Sears Craftsman, regular random orbit, or an orbital sander, and they work great too. And you can see it's really easy to take off any little burn marks and to kind of smooth out the edges, because whether you cut with a bandsaw or a jigsaw, these edges aren't going to be perfectly straight and smooth. They'll be a little bit bumpy as the blade goes by. but it's pretty easy to straighten these out and sand them. And I don't know, it probably takes about 5 minutes or so to cut out and sand each piece, maybe 10 minutes for some of the bigger pieces. But it's a pretty quick little project, and if you have kids or grandkids, they will love these things. The kids never want to get out of them. Even a neighbor's kid, we made 2 for our neighbor who lives a couple of blocks, or a couple of houses, I mean, away from us. And their grandchildren just love them. But I think it makes a great gift. And these things are indestructible. 1/2-inch plywood with a kid sitting in it, you know, they can rock in these for a decade, and they'll never go bad. And here's another option. If you happen to have a CNC machine, which we do happen to have one, you could also choose to get your files via CNC. Instead of the paper templates, you just get these. We have both options for sale on the website. And here we just send you the CNC files themselves, and you just load these right into your CNC machine and just cut it all out. In fact, the small size cuts out entirely on 1/4 sheet of plywood, and the large size takes 2 quarter sheets. I think it probably takes 20 minutes or 30 minutes to cut it out, somewhere in that range. And then you basically will cut out the little tabs in between them, and either use a trim router and router those flush. And I like to use a multi-tool to cut these tabs out because it doesn't tear and splinter the plywood. Cuts fast and easy, as you can see there. It takes a second. And then I'll go over and sand off those tabs, or you can router off the tabs. Both work. But you see how much faster this is, or you can imagine how much quicker this is. And this is one of our little router tables that we make. It fits, we have them for every different trim router, cordless trim router that there is. And they're very handy. They're much better than the trim router bases that you get with your router. You can attach it right to the edge of your bench. And I'm doing that to cut the tabs flush, basically on the piece. And after that, I'll use like a real small 1/4-inch radius round over bit just to take the corners off. It just makes the whole piece smooth and rounded and gets rid of any potential splinters. And that way it won't leave splinters in the kid who's going to be doing the rocking. This is a pretty cool tool I got from Woodpeckers. It's a sand stand. I've made things like this in the past, but theirs is pretty nice. It just kind of holds your sander. It's an all-metal sand, and you clamp it to the table, and then you can just sand things right on top of it. So that's kind of neat. And there's one of the pieces, all rounded over. And then I'll take a moment to sand the flats as well. Make sure it looks good. You could just leave these bare wood if you like it, or you could paint them. Kids love to get involved with that if you have them help you. Or you could, of course, put any stain or finish on them as well. It's a good place to practice some different finishes. Just make sure you router all the visible edges that will be sticking out after the chair's done, or that the kids can see or get a hold of, to prevent any splinters. And the request for us to build these actually came originally from one of the members of our community. We have a community on Facebook. It's called the Kings Find Woodworking Community. It's a place where you can join the community and then share the work that you're doing, or see other people's work, or answer questions if people need help, or you can get questions answered if you need help. It's for woodworkers only. We verify that everybody is a woodworker, or at least that's their hobby. And it's a private group just for that purpose. And when I also get notices of sales that are coming along, and I notify people in the group. And here we've got all the parts cut out for 2 chairs. The small chair here on the left, and the large chair here on the right. Pretty simple, not very many parts to cut out. We did all of this in less than an hour. So we're going to real quick put together this pair of small ones. We're going to run this over to our neighbor. And you can see how quick they go together. They're really simple. They just slide together, lock into place, and each subsequent piece that we put on locks the piece before it ends, so it can't come undone when the kid's rocking, no matter how aggressive they get with their rock. Each piece locks the previous piece in, and this little key goes into the back, and you just push this in real tight and get a nice squeeze fit, and that locks the whole thing together. And those are the small ones. And it's a pretty cool looking little rocker. And we've designed it so the kids can rock back as far as they want. It's almost impossible to tip the thing over backwards. And here's the two together, the large size and the small size. And you can see kids of different sizes getting into it. These are two of my granddaughters, and they get to test out all the things that we make. They love it. And that's it. Just two real simple little projects. Both of them available, and the two different sizes, and they're available either in paper templates or CNC files on the website. And that'll do it. Thanks for watching.